Hello, hi, I'm Zanzi, and welcome back to the Health for Mzansi podcast, proudly brought to you by Health for Mzansi. I'm your host, Joe, and I'm so excited to walk this health and wellness journey with you. Remember, nothing is off limits. The mental health condition of males can sometimes be a topic that gets shoved under the carpet due to preconceived ideas of roles and beliefs. To unpack the nuances of the male role in society, we chat with Stellenbosch lecturer and community mentor, Jerome Peter Fredericks. Let's get into it. Jerome, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, and it's lovely to hear your voice. And I hope you are good on your side.
I'm well, and I'm grateful that you are able to join the conversation that we're going to have. We are taking a focus on males, and I think an important conversation is mental health, and that's why I decided to get you in for the conversation. Can you just introduce yourself and just tell us more about the field that you work in?
I'm Jerome Peter Fredericks. I am from Paul, area called Lantana. My field of expertise is that currently I work as a lecturer at the University of Stellenbosch, and to be more specific, in the Faculty of Medicine and Health Science. So by profession, I am an occupational therapist, and I specialize in the field areas of physical rehabilitation as well as mental health. And just lastly, I'm a PhD candidate and in my final stages of completing my degree, and where I focus on community mobility specific for wheelchair users, but also for persons living with disabilities. My other involvements briefly is just mentorship, sport activities, and I love doing public speaking events.
That is quite a CV. So I'm looking forward to some great conversation on the topic at hand that we have. So, Jerome, just getting into it, if we look at the role of a man in society today, however that might have evolved through time and through the years, do we see it as a role that can either motivate the man or there's some sort of pressure when it comes to that?
For me, traveling a lot locally as well as abroad, I think it all comes down to expectations. There are so many expectations when it comes to the role of a man in society, and this is all based on your beliefs, your culture, your custom, your norms. But I think the one most important thing is the moral choices a man decides on. And I think also, depending on the expectations, is that everyone almost have like the expectation for you as a man. I mean, like if you were still living with your parents, they have certain expectations for you. Now that you are married, your wife has certain expectations for you or your partner. And it's almost like everyone wants you to behave in a certain way as a man. But I think the most important thing is you need to ask that question for yourself as a man. Who you want to be as a man? How do you define it as being a man? And I think this question is specific that no one else can decide for you, but you have to come up and you have to answer that question for yourself. What type of man do I need to be in society? When it comes to the role of the man in society, is all the expectations, the norms and the beliefs which are there.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is that a man should make choices based on moral aspects. And I also believe that there are so many expectations for a man when you are living with your parents, the day when you are married with your wife or your spouse or your partner. And also everybody's almost having these expectations about what it is to be the ideal man. The only one who can answer that question is you yourself, where you need to answer this question, but what type of man would you like to be? What impact would you like to make in society? So if I can just reflect on myself as being a man, then I would like to be, and this is my strive, to be a God-fearing man, to be a man with a vision, but also a man with wisdom. And I think for me as a man, it's important to provide for my family, but also taking care of my kids, that they can have a future. As a man, I also want to be more involved in my community, in my society, where I can assist others who are not fortunate to have like a father, maybe, be like a mentor for those kids. but also to see how I can become a better citizen and making other people's lives better. So I think that is for me my definition as being a man in my society.
Jerome, I'd like to ask you, did your understanding or the definition of a man in society, was it influenced by seeing other men in your community? And do you think that impacts how a man views his role by seeing what other men do and how other men understand their role?
If you look at the population, you get those men who have grown up with a father, and you also get the other side where they were men who grew up without a father. In my case, I grown up without a father, and it was very tough to grow up without a father because observational learning happening inside your house. You see and you will do what you see. So if you don't have that father figure in your life, you need to look at other men. You need to see how they behave, how they act, how they conduct themselves, how they treat the kids, how they treat a wife. And you have to make sense out of those circumstances, what it is to become a man. But in my case, I also had some very, very good role models. Role models like my grandfather from the isiXhosa culture. As you know, there's a certain way of doing things, how to conduct yourself. But I also have very good role models at school, but then also at church. So for me, who I am today is to look collectively to all these men who were like my mentors, who invested in me, who assisted me and to help me, also who assisted me to go through difficult trials and circumstances, and almost like shape and form me to become the man who I am today. So yes, good role models, mentorships, those people are very important to have in your life as a young boy so that you can copy and paste, but also work to a way to see, but listen here, I would like to have those values, those attributes the day when I'm a grown man.
What you're saying now, you can take from various people and from various mentors, and you can copy that and implement it in your own life. What are those external factors in today's life that can contribute to an ill condition of mental health when it comes to males? I think we touched on it a bit, but what would those factors look like?
The one factor which plays such a huge role is pressure. Pressure. The other thing is time. I think time regards or related to when you as a man have to sit down and you have to reflect. And we all have this conversation as a man. And now you start to reflect. And you start to reflect, did I reach my expectation as a man? And now you start to think about all these things which went wrong for you. I'm talking about those men who's having these meetings inside of their heads. They are the CEO, they make the suggestion and they agree with it and everyone is in agreement. And that can be a very fearful meeting to have those type of meetings in your head. There are other things which add to your mental health aspects is your relationships. How's your relationship with yourself? Very important. With your spouse or your partner. And then how's your relationship with your creator? Other things which contribute because we as men want to be the providers. When it comes to employment issues, some of us are unemployed. We don't have a job. We are unable to provide. And occupations are so important, and now you don't work, and now you become frustrated. And I think also there's some part of men where it's almost like the past is getting up with them. Especially those men who come from broken families, or maybe they were physical abuse, or maybe verbally abused. And I think some men also come to that point where we just regret about wrong decisions which we have made. It's almost like you need to identify what are those things which really make you vulnerable. And those are the things which really add up to your mental health challenges, that circumstances which took out so much from you. It's almost like you don't have that drive to motivation to go on. And then the whole thing about sometimes men feel just embarrassed about themselves, how they look. how other people see them, embarrassed because of making the wrong decisions. Then also they don't get the support. Some of them, their whites are not there for them. Their family reject them. Maybe they were growing up in a family where the other brothers and siblings were much better than them. And now they are sitting with these issues. So there are so a variety and so many things with which men are really sitting today and struggle with. And I can tell you it is hard and it's tough when you are in a situation where you don't have confidence in yourself, you don't even believe, and everyone is going on making success. You don't want to even open Facebook because you just successful stories. Now you reflect on yourself and you start to feel like a loser. You start to feel, but listen here, what can I contribute? And you realize, but there's really little or none which I contribute. And these are the things which add up to mental health issues. When you start to compare yourself with other men, and now it's almost like you see that you are a failure. You see yourself, you are not good enough, and that is a dangerous state to be in.
I spoke about external factors, but what I'm hearing is that sometimes there's also sort of an internal conflict, and it's maybe a response to what we see happening around us that can create to ill mental health. But then what are the practical tools you would say when you speak to men in the community to overcome that lack of self-confidence, to overcome that lack of self-doubt, and to kind of now walk on a path that can lead a better sort of mental space and mental health? What are those practical things that men can do to set them up for success, to set them up on that path?
If I can explain it like this, you get what we call an inner world, which is to do with your self-confidence, your belief, how you feel towards yourself. It's almost like you can't go to a ShopRite, to a Checkers or to a Woolworths and say, okay, give me now 50 rand of self-confidence. You can't buy self-confidence. You need to work on it. So that is your inner world. Then you get your outer world. Your outer world is your physical environment here around you. It's things which is outside of your body. And the sad thing in today's life is that your inner world should control your outer world. And the sad thing is today, people let their outer world control their inner world. And if I explain you a little bit more on that, is that in the past, we had men. They haven't had like sport cars, a big house, a huge salary, and all those type of materialistic things. But they felt confident about themselves. They felt like they were capable to do things. They felt they have the ability, whatever they take on, it will be a success. Because it was their inner world which was so strong. But in today's world, you get men who allow let the outer world determine their happiness. Because today's world, people's happiness is being determined about your salary, your house, your car, all these things which is outside of the body. And it should be the otherwise around, where true happiness comes from the inside. Is when you accept for who and what you are, you put action plans in place, you seek for help, you identify the things which makes you unhappy, you give attention to it. Is a person who look after himself, he do exercises, he seeks for therapy or for counseling, but most important, it's a person who take care holistic and comprehensive about himself. This is a message I want to give to men. If you can find peace, love, joy, and harmony inside of yourself, that will be a happy, chappy man. A man who accepts him for who and what he is, but also a man who can put intervention strategies in place to become a better version of yourself. And that is how I see the future man. A man who can invest in himself, but also say, but listen here, this is my happy space. These are the things which makes me happy. This is where I feel safe, and I need to do more of those type of activities.
It sounds like such a cliche when we say you need to find peace, love, and harmony within yourself. You need to do the internal work, so then whatever happens around you, you will be able to process that. You'll be able to handle it. You won't let it affect you as much because you have an internal peace about yourself. So I think
Yes.
that's true.
That is so true. And I can see in today's world, even with youngsters also. And you know what is the sad thing is that we as young people, and specific, this conversation is with men, we don't talk with our own fathers. We
Mm.
don't talk with our grandfathers. We don't talk with the elderly people. And if you talk with those people, you will identify that they had built up resilience over the years. They were people who earned much lesser than us regards everything, but they had resilience. They just knew how to get up again and go on. And I think in today's world is that why so many men have mental health challenges is because we don't know where we come from. We don't know who we are. We don't have our family history in the sense of, do you know who we really are, how tough we are, what we have done to survive. And it's because was in your grandfather, your oppa grootjie, it is
Yeah.
also in you. So you need to know who you are. And I think specific in the isiXhosa culture for me, with my grandfather, his Xhosa name was Sipho. He had always these conversations with me. Jerome, know who you are. You are better than this. You are stronger than this. You are good. You are excellent. You are brilliant. And in today's world, our men don't hear those messages anymore.
Yes.
And that is so sad.
That is really so true. Not to conclude in a negative way. I think as long as there are people like you, in the community, that for those young men that do not hear that, to hear it from other men in the community, to hear it from the leaders in the community, like you said, in the church, other uncles in the family, that's very important because that can sort of set up the trajectory for that person.
So true and also indirect. Thank you for that compliment. But the real unseen hero here is you, Joanne.
Oh my word.
You are the one who facilitated this. You were the one who created this opportunity for me to be on this platform. And I think based on our conversation is that we all have to take hands. You
Yes.
become the broadcaster, you spread this message. Maybe I'm an expert in the specific field, but this is what we should do. We can't work in silos. You know what is so important? You work in a silo, I work in a silo. It is just like one drop. But when we come together and I collect your drop, you collect my drop, and we collect everybody's drops, it becomes an ocean. And this is the powerful thing when we come together. We complement one another, we acknowledge it, but we also see how we can collaborate. Because we might never know who this message is going to reach today.
That's
And that
true.
person might come back over 5 years or 10 years and say, Joanne, because of you having this program, my life was touched and I was never the same. So this is the powerful thing of coming together.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of the Health for Mzansi podcast. For more on our mental health and males chat, check out healthformzansi.co.za. Now remember, if you are in a medical jam or just curious about some health and wellness trends, you can send an email to hello@healthformzansi.co.za or send a message to 076 132 0454. Here, we're in Blue Tech. So there you have it, gals and guys. Let us not let preconceived ideas lead us or pressurize us. Let us be encouraged to hold space for the men in our communities to be who they are and express what they feel. Until next time, keep well, stay healthy. Signing out, your girl Jo.